This is Frankie Abbruzzino with the Scoop News. Yesterday I was putting out some stuff that they were communicating about the Wellfield Chuck Ritters and who's going to pick up the cost in that. So there's been some questions. I thought in a petition, so I thought I'd play the video. What it does is basically cover their viewpoints as a city council, and it covers some of the stuff like where the mayor said the administrator said just take the property and sell it, then build condos. We could care less. We're not going to give you any more money towards it, which you're going to hear repeatedly in this. To a suggestion by the mayor to say, well, maybe we need to tell them if they're not going to give us money that they have 2 years to move the fields and we're taking the property over and doing whatever we want with them. So I was going to put you guys on a single screen, but for some reason when I do that, this program I use is really chopping it up. So I got to sit at the bottom right here. So you'll see me just sitting there. Sorry for the distraction, but it's the only way to get the quality, audio quality that we need for it. The video plays really low, so we're going to try to turn it up a bit and see how it goes. And here we go.
So that we can try to resolve the big sports complex, Wellfield, and the cost of it and so forth. As you know, we did have an action we agreed upon a few meetings back, and Mr. Valley sent that in. And to my knowledge, at least last time he and I met a couple of days ago, the county's not responded to that, along with any other requests that Ed has sent into them.
No, I didn't say that. What I told you is it was drafted for the agenda, and I discussed it with the mayor, and we thought it was presenting a proposition, actually putting all the cards on the table. We were, in a sense, bargaining against ourselves. So it needs to come to this body to talk about what we want to propose as part of an understanding.
I'm talking about the last meeting we had and what we directed you to send in. You've not had a response back.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's correct. No, they did acknowledge that we got the communication, and I think we're going to hear something from Carolyn Brown. I don't recall, but
We haven't heard anything. I guess where we're at though is we've not heard anything.
This is Bob Daniels.
I met with a couple commissioners about it, and basically here's what I got. They have $60 million put in Legacy Trail, $100 million to putting in a new jail and thing down in the Anderson building. River Road is X number of million, and this is not in their game plan.
So it's not in their game plan, he just said, with the county.
So I'm asking you if that's the case, and the one commissioner did say put it on joint meeting, let's discuss it. But if it goes like any of the rest of the joint meetings, I go back to the county road situation, we never did get it resolved at a joint meeting. And it was resolved.
They don't have a lot of faith in the county.
Giving guidance to staff what to go back to the county with. So I guess where are we at right now as from a standpoint of council people here on what we want to do in the next phase here, because right now it's no response that we've sent in 6 months ago, whatever. And of course you got a county administrator leaving and new one coming in, but I think when you talk to the county commissioners, I don't see them really wanting to deal with this. So,
and thanks, Mr. Daniels. I think you've got some good points. And Mr. LaValle had done a lot of work on the parks, but the problem is when we discuss it, all of a sudden our cards are on the table and they know what direction we're going. I would suggest that we start by just saying to the county that the Wellfield situation, the way it is right now, is not acceptable to the city of Venice. We can't continue on in this direction. We're not going to have...
When he talks about not acceptable, right now they're going into the issue where the county does not want to put up forth any money, and they expect the city to put forth the money. I'll stop off and on just to explain some stuff.
We're never going to have groundskeepers for it. We're never going to have I'm sorry, Mr. Person said never use never, so highly unlikely that we will have the funds to do what needs to be done to that field, nor should we expose our residents of just the city of Venice to that type of expenditure when it's used for the entire county. So what I would suggest that we do is take the 2 or 3 that we know we're not gonna have for funding and put those on the table with the county.
Chuck Reiter and Wellfield.
Chuck Reiter, Wellfield, the beach, perhaps. Well, sure. Look at what they just spent at Siesta Key. Look what they spend everywhere else to do bathrooms. And here we've got a beautiful beach and they turn around and tell us, go fix your bathrooms. We're paying, this all goes back to things that I've been bringing up to the county, or for us to bring up to the county for many years. We're all paying the same amount of taxes. And we're not, because it's in the city limits, well, that's too bad. And it can't continue on that way. I've tried several times to get this thing moving with the sheriff's office, and I think we have to do that too. We're paying for our complete police protection, plus paying exactly the same thing that the county pays for the sheriff's office, but we have no sheriff's patrols in the city. You know,
They do start getting back into Wellfield in a second. He's getting a little distracted.
these, maybe demands are a strong word. To make these demands with the county, it's our own fault that we end up short on revenue. We're paying for the county to have those services that they're not providing to the city of Venice, but we're also paying for the city of Venice services. And until we can start segregating that and separating it, we're going to continue to have the problems that we have today with revenues.
I want to say this too, it was interesting. A comment was made to me, well, what have you put in Chuck Reiter? I mean, I don't, as you know, we don't keep track of, so I do know there's a new playground there. And I was assuming that we put it in, which was true. So anyway, I asked John Vinziano how much we put in Chuck Reiter in the last 3 years. Because what was told to me was 0. We put the playground in, plus all the new backstops and fencing, almost 200 grand. Yet that commissioner who uses that field and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know, there's a big disconnect, and I hate to say this, they don't want to deal with us. Because they feel they have this budget issue, they have all these other bigger priorities. And I guess what I'm suggesting to my colleagues to be, what is it? Blunt. We have to force the issue. I mean, I hate to use that word, but that's what it's coming down to, because Wellfield, we have data to show that only 15-20% of our people use it. That's a big expense.
All right, so
Pine Brook,
hold on.
is a conservation.
There, you guys just, somebody asked what percentage do we use, and Daniel's just said only 15 to 20% of our residents actually use the Wellfield.
Thing, but Wellfield is a huge sports complex.
And
So anyway, I guess what we need to have is I'm trying to help us drive this thing, and a lot of behind the scenes work, but I guess we need to have together consensus. What is the next step on this thing? Because the first step, which happened about 6-7 months ago, we got Zippo.
The response, in fairness to the county, the response I got back was more detail. And the initial letter was basically, what we're talking about now was, let's put it on the table. And Wellfield Park was the target. I mean, that is the big ticket that we can't handle. And the response was basically more detail, more specificity. I think talk with the recreation department. So, I think that what we're talking about now is our next step. This is very specifically, And we know we're talking about money. Somebody else puts our money, we're taxpayers. But we're talking about a greater portion of their resources in addition to their management, and specifically what we want them to take over. And those are those you just mentioned, Chuck Reiter Field, the beach, and Wellfield, I suspect are the three most expensive. And the beach and Wellfield in particular, because the beach has people involved as well, lifeguards, you don't have the capacity for that.
But just one other thing, I want to bring this out too. You all have copies of the agreements. And just remember, Wellfield and Chuck Reiter, all the sports agreements, our name was never inked on any of them.
This has been a big issue where the city of Venice is saying, look, the city never signed any of these agreements with these football fields. It's all the county. So why are we paying anything? You've heard this repeatedly by these individuals.
It's between the sports program and the county. What I'm worried about, I express this to Ed here, as we move forward with this, I don't want all those sports people at Wellfield to think we're dumping them. But
We've never had them.
we never have.
Some people probably won't even like that comment, but he doesn't want all the sports people to think, hey, Venice is dumping you. And he's basically saying, you were never our problem. We never had you. We're not dumping you. It's the county's problem.
And that's one of the things I want to talk to you about is, one of the suggestions I had with Ed, maybe he ought to sit down and talk to him. Here's your agreement, Mr. Football Field. It's with the county. And, I mean,
So he wants the city manager, to sit down and tell these guys, the Pop Warners, the Miss Fastball, hey, here's your agreement. It's with the county. It's not with us. So leave us out of it.
it's not with us. We own the land. But those agreements go back 15, 25, 30 years ago. He knows Let's Stadium put a new roof on. And I can tell you right now, the county didn't pay for it.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, their boss paid for that roof. That was very expensive because the inside the beams were rotted and everything. But, so I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get them in the middle, but yet legally, Mr. Attorney, I'm putting my hat on. That's dangerous. The agreement's between them and the sports program. So.
And I've mentioned this several times, but it's worth mentioning again, as painful as it was the last meeting I had with, Ed and I had, with the county commissioner, and
I don't know if you guys caught that. As painful as it was to me with the county, you could see Hollig's not a fan of meeting with them. And when you're going into these meetings with that overall feeling and that overall attitude, I can't see the meeting going productively. But what do I know?
a county administrator in Ed's office. It was probably no more than 5 minutes into the meeting when the county administrator, the assistant county administrator, stated, and this is as close as I can get to verbatim, we, the county, really don't care what you do with your fields. You can sell them and build condos for all we care. We're not going to put a penny into Wellfield, Chuck Reiter, any of them. We're not going to use any county money on those fields. Now that's, Mr. LaValle, that's pretty close to verbatim.
That is the spirit of the message.
So if we're going to be talking about this and bringing it up, we have to be prepared to say, very well done, county. We're not willing to put the money into it either. You have 2 years to find some other field to have these sports. I mean, that's, in essence, that's the direction we have to go.
And so there you hear it, where Hollick's basically saying, look, we're not going to pay a dime. Daniels is saying, we're not on this agreement. They're saying the county's already told us that, hey, you can take your property and build condos for all we care. We're not giving you money. And Hollick wants to basically, when they go to this joint meeting in a couple weeks, I think it is, he wants to sit there and say, look, you got 2 years. Move your fields. If you're not going to pay for it, move your fields. We want them out of there, and we'll build our condos.
Yes, they could be spent outside the city limits. Fortunately, I think
We talk about for the soccer lights and.
yeah, unfortunately, we got to a point where, wait a minute, they're still collected in the city of Venice, and we still have a say in it. You might have the final say. But ain't gonna go there.
All right, and the rest of the stuff, they just talk about different things. Continue to talk about the Wellfield, and I think, I don't have it in front of me what I typed yesterday, but I think they said, okay, well, we're going to go to the meeting. We're going to tell them basically what you heard. You guys are on the agreement. It's between you and the sports agencies. We're not paying another dime. The county, as you can see, is probably going to say, well, we're not paying a dime. We don't have the money. And then it's going to end up where, what we've heard repeatedly, where what Hogg just said, well, then you got 2 years, find yourself another field. At one point in this, maybe I'll turn it back on. At one point, he does say that, and I might have silenced over it, that we only need one field to practice and play on based upon the usage there. So let's see if I played over it. Let's go back to that real quick.
Direction. Anyway, go ahead, Mr. Katero.
We need, girls volleyball, state champions routinely, the boys baseball team.
One more game.
3 years ago, they were rated.
Yeah, I don't think their video trying to capture stuff is just a pain. But right there, they were talking about that a lot of people use this to flourish the sports programs within the schools. And that's another thing where they've essentially said, well, that doesn't help us because most of these students aren't Venice residents. All right, there you have it, guys. You can watch the rest of the video. It's on their website, but after that is just the same gibberish over and over, essentially. This has been Frankie with The Scoop.